Among the gold mines of the inland plains, between the Limpopo and the Zambezi rivers, there is a fortress built of stones of marvelous size, and there appears to be no mortar joining them. This edifice is almost surrounded by hills, upon which are others resembling it in the fashioning of stone and the absence of mortar, and one of them is a tower more than 22 meters high. The natives of the country call these edifices Zimbabwe, which according to their language signifies court. These are the exact words written in 1531 by Vicente Pegado, captain of the Portuguese garrison of Sofala. Not much was known at the time about this imposing fortress and what it was doing there in the middle of the high veld of this region, but the story of a young man in the area can certainly shed some light on this great block structure. Hello and welcome to Totem, Tales of the Motherland, and to this new video in our Myths and Legends series. Although we still own the rights to every story, the ones in this series are based on real events. We hope you enjoy discovering them or rediscovering them as much as we did. If you do, please remember to like, share, and hit the subscribe button. Thank you, and let's begin. The Boy Who Climbed Great Zimbabwe. It is late afternoon. Eagles and other vultures are still hovering around, hoping to find some leftover scraps from lunch or some wandering small cats. A refreshing breeze blows from time to time, sending a ruffling murmur among the baobabs and mopane trees found all across the land. Itai just got back from his second round of gold digging today, and he feels all hipped up by his amazing find, a sizable nugget that is now burning the side pocket of his loincloth. He could not wait to take it to the royal court to show them the magnificence of the heavy metal. Go to Great Zimbabwe? Are you crazy? Tanaka asked him with an incredulous look. Nobody just walks into the king's court. Who do you think you are? But Itai was unfazed. He would go to Great Zimbabwe, showcase his finding, and get paid a lot in cows for it. That way he could save and eventually marry the love of his life, the beautiful Zendaya. After stopping by his house to briefly greet his mother, he exited the family courtyard. He didn't say anything to his mama about his dastardly plan. He knew she would try hard to talk him out of it, even though she knew he would not budge. He did not exactly have a reputation for doing as he was told. Itai was more of a free-spirited young adventurer who always followed his own bliss, no matter what it was. This was probably the reason why he did not have many friends in the settlement, except for Tanaka. But the two were second cousins, so they pretty much had to talk to each other. The real shocker, though, was the interest Zendaya found in Itai. Him, the most rebellious soul among the Shona people. She obviously saw in him what nobody else did: his great kindness, generosity, and unfailing witty sense of humor. Yes, he was a bit out of the norm, but she did not care. She actually even liked that about him. So for her loyalty to him and the love they had for each other, Itai was determined to earn enough money to finally marry her. He had been working hard all summer long in the gold mines to save as much as he could to purchased 3 cows and 4 goats her father had requested for her rura, the Shona word for dowry. He had finally struck it rich today with this big gold nugget. He knew the only people willing to give him what it was worth were the royals at the top of Great Zimbabwe. He prepared himself to meet them. He could not be received by royalty coming right out of the mines, so he cleaned himself up and got ready for the walk to the royal court. As the sun began to go down, he made his way to the king's mountain. He barely reached the first checkpoint at the great enclosure when a guard stopped him. "Who are you and what do you want?" the guard said. "My name is 𝐥𝐤𝐤𝐿, and I have come to present my gold nugget to King Mutota," Itai replied. "The king is not expecting anyone tonight, so try again tomorrow," the guard said. So Itai reluctantly went back home and waited until the next day. In the morning, he put on his best clothes once again and returned to the king's mountain. He was greeted by a different guard this time, and he explained to him the reason for his visit. "The king has a busy schedule today. He will not have time for unscheduled visitors," the guard told him. "But I will be very brave," Itai insisted. Unfortunately, the guard would have none of it. So Itai went back home, but not without making an appointment for the next day. When he returned the next day, there was yet another guard at the door. This one looked astonished that Itai would come all this way from the lower village to sell his gold to the king. Surely there were many traders who could buy his gold. "But none of them will give me a fair price. Only our king can do so," Itai explained, given firm instructions not to let this infamous foolish boy in. The previous guards had briefed him about Itai, so he simply replied, "Try again next week, kid." Itai could not believe it. King Mutota was always willing to listen to his subjects. What was going on? He finally realized that these guards were giving him the runarounds. He tried negotiating with the guard, but this one repeated with a firm voice, "I said, try again next week." Itai felt defeated. He knew there wasn't much he could do. So he started to slowly go down the narrow passage back where he lived, back to the small Zimbabwe's, the smaller block houses clustered at the bottom of the hill. But right when he was about to go down the small staircase he had climbed just moments earlier, he stopped and thought, "No, I have to meet with the king. He has to see my gold nugget. I'm sure he will be interested." So right there on the spot, Itai devised a plan to climb the great enclosure. "That was a crazy idea," a little voice in his brain whispered to him. After all, the outer wall was over 32 feet tall, and it sat on a steep hill. It was made of over 1 million blocks that held together tightly without any mortar. No cement, clay, or any other type of glue held those blocks together. The construction of Great Zimbabwe remains a work of wonder in the world of architecture and archaeology. But Itai decided not to listen to that little voice. It was the voice of fear, the same voice his grandma told him to ignore. Although right now, she too might agree that he was being quite daring. Itai was undeterred. On he went, scaling the wall as soon as he saw an opportunity not to be seen. He started off very well and almost leapt through the first 12 feet or so. That's when his arms began to feel the toll of his own weight. He must have started panting loudly because one of the guards finally noticed him from the ground. "Iwe, what you think you're doing? Stop!" the guard yelled at Itai. But Itai did not stop. He had to continue. He went on, but more slowly, because he was so tired already. The guard's summation brought attention to the matter, and more guards show up, trying to figure out a way to get Itai down and arrested. None of them dared to climb after him, though. Why bother? He would probably fall down, and that would be the end of him, they thought. But just to be on the safe side, they notified the guards on the inner enclosure to get ready to capture Itai once inside. Some of those guards were usually over the enclosure, ready to shower intruders with arrows. But things had been very slow lately, and they reverted to patrolling the inside instead, and stayed vigilant only for real threats, not an individual unarmed lunatic. Itai continued his climb, cringing with every new ground he gained. He finally made it to the top, and he sat there for a minute, taking his time to make the climb down into the inner enclosure. What was he thinking? He pondered about what just happened, finally realizing the magnitude of his bold action. This was nuts. This was the craziest thing he had ever done. And there was no doubt that he had done crazy things in his short life, including chasing a couple of lion cubs while the mother lion was out hunting. That got him and his cousin the beating of their lives from their own mothers. Yet, trespassing on the king's palace seemed scarier. Luckily for him, King Mutota happened to be taking a stroll at that exact moment, in that exact same spot that evening. Him and one of his wives were flabbergasted at what they saw. A young man sitting on the block wall. He must not be well in the head, King Mutota thought. His young bride, his 189th one to be exact, thought that Itai was so young and daring. She pleaded with the king to see what this young man had to say. The king agreed. Itai made his descent along the wall, and he was brought in the presence of the king. Once in front of the king, he bowed in respect, presented the king with his gold nugget, and he explained the reason for his misconduct. King Mutota listened patiently, then he said, "I applaud your courage, young man, and that is a fine piece of gold you have there indeed. But gold I have plenty of already, enough for trade and for myself, for generations to come. It is land I am in need of now, fertile and vast land. See, we have outgrown this place with so much cattle and people. The land can no longer sustain us. We need to move. That is why I have not seen any of my subjects lately. I have been busy making plans to leave Mwenemutapa and go up north." Itai's jaw dropped. The kingdom was to be moved? Now that he thought of it, it made sense. They had been running out of salt for a while now, and salt was the main mineral of the Shona people. They had to go further and further outside the kingdom boundaries to find grazing land for their huge herds of cattle, and more trade seemed to happen up north towards Zambia. The disappointment was obvious on Itai's face, and just as the guards were about to take him away, the king gestured for them to stop and said, "You have showed so much courage and dexterity that I will have mercy on you. In fact, I will give you the 3 cows and 4 goats you need to marry the love of your life. I believe in love. I believe in it so much that I have 200 wives myself." He said that last part with a chuckle. He ordered the guards to let Itai go and to make sure he received his 3 cows and 4 goats by the end of the following day. And so it was done. Itai's bravery earned him the dowry he needed to marry his beautiful 𝐦𝐨𝐬𝐤 1 month later. It was a joyous celebration that Tanaka and all their family members and friends attended. Itai and 𝐦𝐨𝐬𝐤 were happily married, raised a happy family, and grew old together. Great Zimbabwe still remains to this day in the country that got its name from the majestic dwelling of the royals of old times. It is the largest block structure south of the Sahara Desert, and it's part of UNESCO's World Heritage. It is believed that the settlement was abandoned due to climatic changes, since the area was no longer suitable for the more than 20,000 Shona people that once inhabited it. King Mutota was long gone when the kingdom fell into disintegration during the second half of the 18th century. If the walls at Great Zimbabwe could speak, they probably would have a lot of stories to tell, including, perhaps, the story of a young man who once dared climbing them, all because of love. The end.